Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot. It's time for us to take a look at the soulmate situation for the second half of April. So, we did the broader look yesterday. So, if you haven't had a chance to go see that one, that'll give you the soulmate cycle came up in that one a couple of times, but that wasn't the main focus of it. It was looking at your broader life. A lot of the same concepts came up that come up in a lot of the readings. So, it's still maybe relevant, but just still not focused on the soulmates specifically. So today we're focusing on soulmates specifically, and we're going to look to see what's in the energy for you this month, for the rest of the month of April. And so we're going to get started with the energetic backdrop. But remember, it's a general reading. It's for the people in the collective. So it's not going to resonate with everybody. And like I always say, it shouldn't. If it's your story, then you may wish to subscribe. You may also want to look at some of the other messages that have come out. As far back as you want to go, I started in September of last year with the YouTube channel, and the readings have all been very connected. So you'll kind of see it narrow down from being some pick of cards to realizing we were all on the same timeline, and so now here we are. But so looking at the energetic backdrop for the two of you across the back half of April. We've got the King of Pentacles and the Three of Cups in reverse. So, whoa. Okay. So the Three of Cups came out in the upright for you in yesterday's reading. Okay. This is really specific. And it almost popped out as if it was an afterthought. And I was kind of like, no, that's going to be significant. Let's see what card that is. It's the Three of Cups that is coming out in the reverse to say there is not a flow of emotion specific um, to this soulmate situation. However, not so much that there isn't a flow of emotion. It's more that there isn't being something's not being allowed to flow. There is a lot of growth. We saw a lot that in yesterday's reading that there's been a lot of growth, and you need to acknowledge it within yourself, as well as being able to acknowledge how far you have to go still. It seems like there's a lot of talk about how far you have to go, but not always as much talk about how far you've already come. So that was part of the message, and it's part of what's coming through in this King of Pentacles also. But with this Three of Cups, what it's telling us is not so much that there's not a flow of energy or emotion between the two of you, more that something is being blocked. And it may be something that would cause you ultimately to come into the same place, to be together. They're doing something to avoid it. They're finding a way to avoid it, even if it's just trying not to call and text you. So you've got the Two of Swords. They are essentially blinding themselves to being able to make this decision effectively. It's tormenting them a little bit. So if you've been feeling that energy, and I know a lot of you have because I've been talking with you, then you just know that they have been suffering from that as well. However, it may look a little different with them because a lot of them are kind of digging in and hiding a little bit farther even. So we've got the Five of Wands here that has come out to talk about the struggle between them internally. It's got a very Five of Swordsy sort of feel to it. So it's got a little bit of not just struggle, but consternation and internal conflict. The Five of Wands can be conflict that is not internal in nature, but in this case, it really feels like it is. So we've got the King of Coins also coming out in reverse. This is the element of self-doubt that keeps plaguing the situation between you. It's one of the reasons that your person stays quiet. There's this feeling, though, that keeps being very pervasive for them throughout the month of April, and I think it really started before April did. It was still during the month of March that there was this feeling that, hey, I could do this. I could reach out. I could be successful. This Six of Wands sort of feeling of it's been a really long battle, but I think we can do this. And that is that there's this warm feeling that they have. And then they come back to that initial fear that they have. It's very back and forth. Okay. So they feel like they could do this. They feel like maybe it's too good to be true, and they're afraid to reach out if they haven't already because they don't necessarily feel better. So they start retracting back into their shell, which they were just feeling better. but they'll talk themselves out of it, out of the fear that they have and the feelings of almost not feeling like they deserve it or feel worthy of it. But there's so much just desire to reach out to you. This is the Knight of Cups. This is the desire to reach out. Even though cups are not always associated with desire, a lot of times you'll see that as wands. In this case, cups, and it's energy of um, emotion for sure. So cups are emotion, but there's a lot of this very clearly directed love emotion, but it's not just love. There's more to it. There's an intensity to it. Um, this is an honorable mention. We've got the Seven of Cups here in the reverse, and it's about having choices, but not really understanding what they are or exactly how to navigate those choices. Sometimes the choices are a little bit clouded, or it's confusing to figure out what's truly on the table, what's not, and what you can do maybe at the same time versus what you can't. Can I have this person in this job at the same time? That's one of those things that came out in the beginning of the month reading. There was it's that type of conflict and that type of balance that is trying to be struck here, and there's so much balance, and or there's so much struggle, but at the same time, there's this feeling that, no, we could be successful. Oh, maybe not. They have their doubts. There's a lot of self doubt. There's also there are things in the situation that are working against them. So we noticed in yesterday's reading that you were going to start to have things that seem like they're falling into place and going the right way. That is still happening in the energy here. It is also, though, going to be true that you're going to have things that aren't right. So we had the Justice card that came out in the reverse in the other reading yesterday, and with a similar feeling, just that things aren't right. This is more things not always working out in your favor, but you still find a way to make it work. This is the World card, and it talks about being at the end of a cycle. But what it really feels like to me is like a skill level. So the experiences that you've had here to date with your soulmate have lifted you to a new skill level. And so sometimes when you run across situations that are maybe things you've seen before and maybe even struggled with before, what you may find is that they don't generate as much of a struggle in you now because of how the ways that you've grown and how much. You do still have that new truth. Both of you are going to be struggling with some new truth that isn't really new, but is recently illuminated to you and has been very difficult to take in and really make it part of the way that you see the world. So there will be some progress in that. We know that it's not comfortable progress from the experiences that you've been having, the crossroads you've been approaching. We also know this isn't your last crossroads, and you may already notice that you're handling it better than you would have in the past. So let's jump in a little bit farther here and just kind of see what's happening in the energy for the month of April, kind of the outlook for it, and just understanding what you need to know about the energy that's happening in the second half of April. It's what are those high points? So the 7 of Pentacles in reverse. This is kind of a reminder to make sure that you're connecting with your higher self. Make sure that you're doing the meditation or the prayer, whatever it is that you do actively to connect. Make sure that you're not going too lax on that, because there is a lot of benefit to be had with it. It is going to have the benefit of helping you not be that like the 7 of Pentacles has the energy of you can't make it happy almost. You can't make this person happy. It's like that. I just had this one yesterday. It's the bucket with the hole in it. And so when you put water in, it's constantly leaking out of the bucket. And so it never really can be fulfilled, and it's constantly kind of almost going down. It's always in needs more replenishment. And this is the sort of feeling that it'll really wear on you, and so you're being suggested to, again, figure out how far you've look at how far you've come, because that's going to be the answer to this. It's a tough problem, but figuring out how far you've come on this soulmate experience, and what you've learned, how far up the mountain you've come, as well as looking how far up you still have to go. Those are some of the messages that came out, and it came out with the Seven of Pentacles yesterday. It's really got a lot of that same sort of feeling to it. Um, this is very well aligned with the energy of yesterday's reading, although it was clever that the Three of Cups came out in reverse. That was pretty definitive. It was like, well, this is an area of your life where this is maybe going to stick out because it doesn't seem like it's getting together socially. It's a resistance to that. But it may not stick out as much, except for the fact that your person really has a lot of that in their energy. So with the Sun card in reverse, we can see that there's a missed opportunity. It has a lot to do with this, the very thing we were just talking about here, where there's this resistance to getting together, a resistance to communicating any more deeply, or maybe even communicating at all. But it's a short-lived thing, because it feels like actually the pressure to need to communicate with you is also going to start to change as they start to absorb that truth. It's just so ever changing, and everybody being on different timelines is going to change things up as well. But to, really to remember to remain consistent with the meditation or the prayer or the whatever it is that you do that helps you to connect, because you're going to be missing you'll be missing some element. You'll be missing some aspect of something. And there is another, it's going to cause a bit of a holdup. So it's almost like these two together feel like the Star card in reverse, something that is inevitable, but is still going to experience a little bit of a holdup because of something that, a detail that gets missed. It's not optimal, but again, it's like everything else where you have a situation. That you make a decision and it ultimately is not what you wish you would have done, you usually can still work your way through it. I mean, that's ultimately what you do. We have the Ten of Wands here, though, in reverse, and this tells me there's a strong feeling of you and your person both taking a lot of, like, feeling a lot of pressure about things that you really are not going to be able to control. Still, both of you feeling a lot of that pressure to do something or say something or not say something. And in their case, they've got a lot of, you've got to protect yourself and not say these things. And it's interesting because they're coming up against it, and then they're realizing that some of the pain that has transpired in the past between you, because of the growth that you've been doing, is already starting to kind of fall away, or they're being able to see behind it. So it still hurts. It's not necessarily that the pain is gone. It's more that they're able to deconstruct it a little bit more. And you'll probably be noticing that as well. It isn't so much that everything gets resolved, but you're going to get more okay with it. Um, that's part of the energy that's happening here in the second half of April. This is about you getting okay with it. It's about that same lesson that we hear so much about over time. We've heard so much about it. With regard to getting comfortable in an uncomfortable situation, this is the epitome of that. This is something that you're taking huge steps toward during April, during even the second half. But honestly, I would say the first half, you've already taken some significant strides, and they're uncomfortable strides, but that's the way these things are. I'd be curious to see how your person is feeling about things, because I'm seeing this Ace of Cups in reverse come out, but I also am seeing that this is like, it feels like hiding behind a rock. It's got this, like, outside, hiding behind a big rock. And I don't understand what this is. It's like hiding love. I have this one deck where every time the Queen of Cups comes out, it looks like she's completely unrelenting love, but she won't talk about it. And it's the only deck where it's like that. And this is that same kind of feeling, even though I don't usually get that sense with the Ace of Cups, and certainly not in this deck. But there's love there, but it's being kept under wraps. It's being kept a secret. There's a lot of anxiety around that feeling, a lot of anxiety around this emotion. And that's why I'm curious to know, like, what is the rest of that emotion? Because there's a lot of this, it's heavy, it's, It's being kept at bay. There's something that's being kept quiet. They're keeping themselves from, there's a lot of this keeping themselves from, even though there is a lot of a desire to move in your direction, a lot of desire to communicate. We've seen that over and over. Um, but they look like they're going to miss the opportunity because they're going to be too reliant upon their fears. Um, we've got the Page of Swords. Well, I don't know. So the Page of Swords is a little bit like the Fool card for me when it comes out like this, and it has that feeling of you might catch them in a moment. If they get the right impulse at the right moment, they might reach out. However, in some cases, you guys have already experienced this and it didn't necessarily go as well as you would hope because they really weren't ready. So be prepared for that. Be gentle. If this starts to come through for you, if they start to contact you and seem like things are just really awkward, realize that for them, it is as awkward as it feels and sounds. For you, you're also going to have your own things going on, and they're not going to be able to understand it because of all of the racket of noise going on in their own mind. So just keep that in mind if you do have communication, or even if you recently have. There's so much noise in their mind right now about this that they're still deconstructing the conversations, but they're really trying to avoid doing that. So let's take a look at what you can be doing and what you can be focused on. The month of April has been a doozy. It looks like it's going to continue to be, but it's a productive one. It's a really good thing that all of this that's happening is incredibly good. So we've got the Hierophant card that has come out, as well as the Eight of Pentacles. Is this is great. So basically, you're asking where you want to be focused, and it's all about finding your favorite source or sources of guidance. Pay attention, use it to ask better questions, use it to apply wisdom to yourself directly, which means it's going to have to be tailored. So if you are, well, let's say we know that you're listening to tarot readings. If you're doing that, find your favorites, get the message, really think about it. You don't have to send them a note back or send me a note back and say, hey, I think you were wrong about X, Y, or Z. Like that, you do need to make your own decisions. You need to go ahead and ask yourself the difficult questions, particularly as it pertains to your emotions and your ability to manage your emotions, because this is an opportunity. This is a great time right now for you to make progress there. So make sure that you seek out guidance in whatever forms you prefer, and then ask good questions about it, particularly allow it to apply. This is okay. So we saw this much earlier on, that there was an opportunity that would come out, something that is going to give you a lot of passion. Now, we've seen so much come out about an opportunity that creates passion, creates stability, creates happiness, and a well resourced calm. There's this opportunity that is here for you. It may already be here for some of you. It's not a person, not a romantic situation. It is related to, if it's related to a person, it's probably not just about that person. That person is a fringe benefit, and it's not a romantic situation, at least not at this time. At this point, this is more of something that will impact you, and you aren't going to have the bandwidth for both things. This is also going to be you redirecting some of your energy from the potential overthinking or obsessive thinking that has been happening with your person. So we've got the strength card here in the reverse that says it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, just because you've got this opportunity here and it leads to this really great place. And we'll look at this. We'll look at this because it's like this is what's on the bridge, and this is early on the bridge, and this is farther as you get down there. Look for yourself to be potentially displaying some of the traits that you have not loved in this person that you're dealing with. There's some shadow work that needs to be done here, And what you'll do, you'll notice that you react especially poorly to those things that you also won't like within yourself. So be digging into that as well. And that's just something that you can be doing in some of these meditations if you are so inclined. Is you've been given the recommendation to remain in the groove. Keep doing the meditations if you have the opportunity, or the prayer. Everybody has their own way that they want to connect. But again, look for those things with the King of Cups here in reverse. It's this one feels a little codependent, a little bit like maybe it's got a little bit of shame in it. There's a little bit of something in here that you need to look into and take it into yourself and say, this is just part of me. It's just part of me. There's nothing to judge. Um, but it's full on shadow work that needs to happen there. So look that up if you're not familiar with it. We've got the Fool card here. This is not just an opportunity for you to get passionate about something. It's a legitimate opportunity to do something very different. It's going to change your life in a significant way, and not just learning, not just new things that you get to do. It's actually going to be, this is an exciting thing to jump into, an exciting thing to go forward with. And it is going to bring you some additional balance. It looks like it may also bring you some additional funding, or, this could be a business or something. I mean, it has that feel to it that maybe if it isn't a business, it enriches you in a way that enables you to command a higher salary or a higher job, something that um, there's a lot of really positive in here. We've got the Moon card. I haven't seen what this other one is that wanted to pop up first, but we've got the Moon card here that talks a little bit about the mystery. Honestly, there's some mystery in here that we keep seeing this. In fact, yesterday we saw the Moon card come out sideways, talking about how there would be mystery and cloudiness, and you wouldn't necessarily be able to easily get through it, and that you wouldn't necessarily wait to make your decisions. But you do have a situation here that is loath to change, something that is afraid to change, or maybe doesn't realize how things could potentially be, and therefore hasn't wanted to change. But it's a change that does need to happen. Look for this to be in you. Look for it to seem like it's kind of small, and then when you start to make the change, you find out it's actually a lot bigger than how it appears. We will definitely dig farther into this when we get into the extended here in a minute. We're also going to look into the emotional side with what's happening with your person in the soulmate situation, because we see a lot of, here it comes, there's a lot of them running away, a lot of not having perspectives that are going to ultimately be required. And yet, this desire to come together, this desire, it's just pushing you to get in contact with one another. And some of you, I know, have been doing that. You've been doing that. And then a lot of you have ended up being disappointed with the results of that. That's probably what's happening over here. But again, when we did the reading a while back to see if you should reach out to your person, we have sometimes had do not reach out, but other times, like when we read about it specifically not too long ago, one of the pieces of advice we got was, you can, but be prepared, because if they're not ready, it's not going to be a very good conversation. So you've got to be ready for whatever comes. And if you don't feel like you're ready for that, it's best not to reach out. So this is that playing out, I think, in some cases. But let's go ahead and get you an oracle card for a little bit of advice. Yeah, if this is you, this is such a connected reading. You may wish to subscribe if this is you, because this is, man, this is coming to the business end of this as well. Everybody is in different places on the timeline, but this is becoming a really riveting and fascinating story. So I'm coming out every day with these videos to talk about the soulmate situation, and it's really just fascinating to watch it evolve. Sometimes fascinating isn't the word I would use for how it feels to be in it, but I mean, it is fascinating for sure, but that's not always the first word that comes to mind. Sometimes it's all kinds of other things. So the card that wants to come out for you here is Limitless, and it says, because this is probably too small to read, see yourself open to receive in the most miraculous ways. The divine can use anything and anyone. This is totally fair. This is associated with a mantra that comes out often. So in my own meditation, I've got these 6 or 7 mantras that I use. And I start with one that talks about not being attached or releasing attachments to people and situations and outcome, also releasing the expectations and assumptions of those. And because it really does limit you when you have expectations about the future, you're manifesting that. If you're able to release those expectations and say, I don't know what's going to happen, it really does relax some of those limits. So that's part of what wants to come through here, because there is an awful lot that wants to happen here during the course of these last couple weeks of April. It's springtime, things are moving, and it is not necessarily comfortable, but it is intense. So you've got something big coming your way. We're going to look a little bit more into that. Let's look into what the opportunity is when we get into your bridge question. It's going to be about your opportunity that's coming up. We're also going to, like I said, look into the emotions with your person and see a little bit more about what's going on there. So the link is down below if you're interested to check it out. Otherwise, thanks for joining me. Subscribe if you'd like, and I'll see you in the next video.